One.
Yo, just so you understand it, this is Coach Carvel Bailey's program with the spirit of Bob Hambry.
This is Blessed to Ball, helping athletes, and we represent. Study your craft, your mentality leads to excellence. It's all about your mindset. We'll never stop addressing this, so be positive and not a pessimist. Confidence took James Harden higher. If you really want it, it ain't gonna be easy. It's gonna be hard as carbon fiber, but we got you. From counseling to workshops, we do it. You'll go farther with a scholarship. We'll help you get recruited. Yo, anyone can dribble and shoot, but it's the ones who study basketball internally that make it to Duke University. Knowledge goes around. The game is played from the neck up and not from the shoulders down. This is Blessed to Ball, helping you with obstacles. The athletes are the rocket. Blessed to Ball is the rocket fuel. If you hit a wall, we can help you slowly climb it. So keep a Mamba mentality like Kobe Bryant.
Blessed to Ball.
Cherish the opportunities that you have.
Blessed to Ball.
Use your mentality to master the craft.
Blessed to Ball.
Come join our team, it's a new day. Follow our steps and watch how much better you play.
Blessed to Ball.
Cherish the opportunities that you have.
Blessed to Ball.
Use your mentality to master the craft.
Blessed to Ball.
Come join our team, it's a new day. Follow our steps and watch how much better you play. Yo, Coach Carvel Bailey. Hey, listen to your coach, man. He ain't no scrub off the street. That man got credentials, academic and street. Believe it, and my name is Strategic.
Good evening. Good evening. How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Life and Basketball. I'm your host, Coach Carvel Bailey, and on this show, we talk about how the game of basketball and life are synonymous, right? And just by learning certain principles about the game of basketball, you can also use those in the game of life. And so on this show, right, we interview coaches, former coaches, players, former players, referees, as well as those individuals that are very, very influential to the game of basketball, right? And we talk about how a little orange ball has oftentimes saved and or changed the lives of the people that it's touched. And so today, I have a very special guest, This will not only be an educational interview, but also very, very entertaining, right? So buckle your seatbelts up. Buckle your seatbelts right now, all right? And parents, please share this right now and come around so that you can get a better understanding of the mindset behind a basketball parent. And so I want to welcome you all here today. And I want to introduce to most and present to somebody that I respect enormously. We have many conversations that most people may not ever even know about. But this is one of the realest individuals that I know. And he has done some great things, not only in his hometown, but now being in the Chicagoland area. And so I always want to bring people up that are doing right by the game of basketball. And so please welcome me and or help me welcome help me welcome Mr. Mustafa. Wait a minute, because he told me. Suleiman Mustafa Suleiman. How you doing, Mu? How you doing? Let me. There you go. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing well, and we are laughing because I pronounced it Suleiman, and he just schooled me. He just educated me on it's Suleiman. Okay, Suleiman. So,
and I said Suleiman is not wrong, and your brain is going to tell you to do that. So Suleiman or Suleiman is Arabic for Solomon.
Okay, I love it, man. So, first of all, how you doing this evening, my brother?
I'm actually doing great. I'm multitasking, talking to you. I got the Phillies game up on the TV upstairs and on my laptop. We just came back. We tied the score up, so I'm doing fantastic.
You are fantastic right now. Hey, so for the people that may not know you, right, that are introduced to you, and they, man, why is this? Who is this guy? And that's cool, right? But before we get into everything in your story, can you just enlighten us just a little bit about who is Mustafa Suleiman?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. Well, first and foremost, I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a brother. I'm a friend. I'm somebody that I don't like to take myself too seriously, but I'm like really hard on myself at times. I'm a reliable person. I'm somebody that my friends and family know that they can count on. But I'm also a person that has made many, many mistakes that I have learned from over the years as I've become the man that I've become today. And one of the reasons why I ended up in Chicago is just trying to really just find myself. I was in a very pivotal moment in life back in Philly. About 3, maybe 5 years of being married, and I really didn't feel like I was holding up my end of the bargain as far as being a provider and a husband, to be honest with you. And I needed a drastic change. I needed a very drastic change, and I got the quote unquote permission from my wife to move to Chicago. A friend of mine who moved out here, they had opened up some schools, some alternative accelerated model schools, and it was 6 of us that moved out here. 5 of them were already working for the company. I ran into my guy at a barbecue. He told me about the opportunity, and I hit him with the proverbial like, "Yo, put me on. Like, I want to go. I need a job." And he was like, "Well, move, like we going to Chicago." I'm like, "So, like, cool."
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So I interviewed, as a formality, and then I didn't really think they were going to select me, but I interviewed, and then within 2 weeks, they were like, "Yeah, you need to pack your bag. You move it to Chicago." And it was like right in the middle. We were already planning at the time. Xavier was about 6 or 7. We were already planning a summer vacation. We go to Wildwood every year, which is like the Jersey Shore.
Okay.
And the day that I had to be out here, the day before was when we were planning to go. So my wife and Xavier, they still went with her mom, and they still went. And I made the intentions and packed my bags, and I came to Chicago in 2012, and I've been here ever since. I flew home every weekend to, obviously spend some quality time with my wife, of course.
Right.
But got to have that. And then of course, Xavier was just kind of getting into sports as a whole, basketball and football. And of course, I wanted to be, I still wanted to be a part of that. And I flew home every weekend, and I was there for his games. And by that next year, 2013, I was here for that whole year. Flew back and forth the whole year. It was a point where me and my wife, her name is Celeste, we sat down and it was like, "Hey, like, what's the move? Like, I'm going back, I'm staying. So what's the move? Like?" And I was like, I overheard her talking to a friend of hers, like, yeah, you know, me and Xavier, we're gonna be moving to Chicago next year. And I'm like, wait, y'all coming? Like, oh, I'm not ready. I don't have
Right.
no headquarters for the
Right.
family. So I had to
Right.
I had to get on it. I ended up having an apartment, and then when they moved here, though, our first house we lived in Park Forest,
Mm.
and
Okay.
then the rest, as you say, is history. So they moved here. Xavier moved here, and Celeste moved here, and then 2017. You know, I'm fast forwarding a little bit. We
Yeah.
had our other son, which is a huge age gap. Don't
Right.
ask. And then he was born in June of 2017. So I have two boys. Um,
Okay.
Miss Les just celebrated 15 years of marriage. So, you know,
Congratulations, man.
I
To
appreciate
both.
that. Appreciate that.
Congratulations to both of y'all. Yeah, no, you talking about age gap, man. Me and my wife laugh all the time. Say, hey, we got two teenagers in the kindergarten. So
Oh, so you got two. Okay. Yeah, you got me beat. I got one in the kindergarten. So you got me beat. You got it, coach.
man, so but so what I heard you say though, and I want to move it to you know, as we're moving along, but I heard you the first thing that you said was that you learn from other people mistakes.
My
And
own mostly, but yeah, other people's, yes.
and that's really a shortcut and a cheat code if you know, especially talking about athletes, right? If
Hmm.
athletes learn to be a student of the game, they can learn from other players' hiccups, right?
Right.
From and just even in life, you know, as you said, not only your own mistakes, but other people mistakes. But then you said that you had to find yourself, and I'm pretty sure in finding yourself brought a little better clarity to what you needed to do.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, you know, a lot of even, you know, again, a lot of athletes are oftentimes they don't know that themselves. And so they're trying to be a point guard. They're trying to be a post player. They're trying to be everything because they don't really know them and what their strengths are. And I remember you, and we'll get into it a little later, but I actually gave you this survey, and me and you, as I said early on, me and you have frequent conversations that most people may not ever know about. You know,
Hmm.
it's been going on for 4 years now, Moo. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And
So tell them how you, not so much how we met, but like
yep, yep.
how the pathway kind of, because I remember.
Actually, even opened up. And I'm going somewhere with this, right? Talking about finding yourself, and you said that you knew that you had to make a drastic change. But in that drastic change, sometimes it's finding out things about you or people around you that you may not know what it is, and some people may be afraid to find out. And
Hmm.
so on this particular um, social media page, right? And shout out South Suburban Hoops.
Hmm.
It was on that page, and somebody was saying something. They had posted a picture of these 4 or 5 guys from 8th grade, and
Hmm.
I responded that something to the point of that's cool, but I hope that they know that somebody is always watching.
Hmm.
Because that particular day, and I don't always come out like the summer league games and all of that. If I do come out, I'm coming to watch some of my former players.
Right.
And, you know, I don't brag on them. I don't talk about them, none of those things. But this particular time, Malcolm Griffin was in the gym. Shank was coming up. Uh, the next summer, he was the best player in Chicago that next summer. But he
By
was up,
far.
and Malcolm walked in, And he walked over to me, gave me dap, and I whispered in his ear, and I said, "Let everybody remember your name tonight." And he looked at me and he was like, "I got you, coach." And I was sitting next to some kids and they were saying some things. And so on the post, I was like, let them know that somebody's always watching. They don't know who I am. They don't know who I know. They don't know any of those things. And it was one parent that said, my son is in that picture. Inbox me and let me know what he said. And that was the first connection that you and I had. And I reached out, and then I think you called me and we had the conversation. And I was like, it was some choice words that, you know, a coach may question the character, may not. And we got on the phone, I believe, a couple nights later, and you had your son on the phone. And you was like, Coach, can you tell him what you told me? And he was just entering into high school, and he was very coachable, very respectful. And from that day, you know, and you told me a couple weeks ago, you was like, Coach, I remember that conversation, and he still do too. You know, but y'all were receptive to somebody that y'all didn't know, but took the information and said, okay. And I'm pretty sure that's never happened again in his life at that point. But that's the connection between you and I, how everything started. So
no, you're definitely correct. And the most important thing in that entire interaction was, which was very funny and coincidental, is throughout the parenting and development that I have, obviously throughout Xavier's life, is that usually when I say something to him, right, like most kids, like we did with our parents, it's kind of almost one in one ear and out the other, or you know, kind of like, that'll never happen. It was like something that I had been telling him, like, you never know who's around. Like I'm constantly preaching that to him. You never know who's around. You never know who's this. So you need to be mindful. And I'm very, very selective of who I let Xavier hang around. Right? Very selective. For two main reasons. That one included, because I know just as well as anybody is that our people, we're not given the benefit of the doubt when stuff hits the fan. Yeah. It's them.
Yeah.
That's how. I mean, there's plenty of examples of that. You know, from AI to whoever. When stuff hits the fan, the most noticeable person is always picked out of the crowd. Always. Oh, it was him. Right now you're fighting to explain yourself. Right. So I'm always preaching to him like, you never know who's around. But I had just been giving him conversation and feedback in regards to that, not even a few days prior, and in particular at those games, because like I'm there. This was kind of almost, you know, he's hitting high school and wanting to kind of like be with his peers and integrate his, you know, himself. Like I understand that moment of finding yourself as a young man. That's an important part of development, right? Just being a father, I try my very best to father or parent Xavier, and this is no slight to my father. But usually when you become a parent, you try to develop different strategies, good or bad, you take from how you was raised, right? So it's like you take some of the stuff that you didn't really like or you didn't really think was effective for you, and you kind of discard it, or you kind of come up and mold it to the times that we're in. We're living in a social media age, right? We're living in times where everything is just posted, you know, all the time, or people was always recording or whatever.
It's always captured.
It's always captured. Yep. And so like I'm always telling him about that. Even tonight, like he texts my wife and I in our family thread, and after school wanted to go hang out at the mall. Of course, he has a car now, so he just turned 18. He's at that age. Like I get it.
Yeah.
But I'm still very, very much afraid. I'm not afraid to say that I'm very much afraid of my son's well-being. And so like it's always, you know, you
Oh,
want to go to the mall. Cool. Make sure you are mindful of your surroundings. There's been plenty of mall shootings. Make sure you ain't doing nothing, you know, putting yourself in a position. If somebody want to do something stupid at the mall, you be a leader, not a follower. If you're not going to be the person to stop them, don't be the person to join them. It's
exactly.
difficult as a peer to stand up and like, yo, that's not right. That's not right. Don't do that. And I recognize that. Cool. If you're not ready for that responsibility, don't be a follower then.
Mm,
That doesn't take a whole lot of decision making or like, oh, should I not? Should I not? Should I? Should? It's hell no, you shouldn't. If you're not
mm,
going to stop it, don't join it. And that's something that my wife and I were always I'm preaching to Xavier. He's very receptive. There are times where
mm.
I'm not really sure. Our parenting sometimes falls on deaf ears,
Right,
so I'm not really
right.
sure. But he's proven thus far that he does listen, that he does hear, and he does apply. And that's all you really can ask for. You can't be with your children 24/7. And the other
Exactly.
thing is like, we're not from here. So that's not lost on me, right? And let me tell you, in Philadelphia, there's not a soul, and I say this slightly exaggeratory, but very seriously, there's not a soul who doesn't know me or my family, right? My father was a very well known, respected community member in West Philly. My entire family is from the West Philadelphia area. Of course, I mean, everyone pretty much knows, my brother and sister in law are from Kindred. So, like, I have friends from college that are sprinkled throughout the inside. So, Xavier could not go anywhere in Philly and
Without somebody over.
somebody would know him. Somebody would protect him. Somebody would step in and redirect his behavior. Here, it's a select few. It's a handful of people,
Yeah.
right, that I've built relationships with, or that Xavier has kind of built a relationship with, and based off your show, it's like it's been through basketball, and I'm okay with that.
Yep.
So if you see my son out doing something, redirect him. That's the era I was raised in.
Mm-hmm.
In that
Mm-hmm.
when we lived in Atlanta, like the neighbor could check you.
Yeah.
The neighbor could could
Absolutely.
could spank you. I
Yep.
was raised in that era.
You're
Like
gonna get it
if I get
twice. You're gonna get it twice.
I,
You're gonna get it from them, and then when you get home.
I got it twice. I got it twice one time. I gotta be in by the neighborhood
Yeah.
um imam,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then when my father got home from work, he woke me up and beat me again. Like
Again.
so that's the era I'm from. You
Yeah.
can't do that no more nowadays.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, so back to that particular example, when you told me, it just so happened I was already giving him that example. Like you never know who's paying attention, and now I had a real world, real life in the moment example. This is what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? And then of course it was like, well, it wasn't me, or I didn't, or this, that. It's like, regardless, our people usually, unfortunately, are guilty by association. And if you're not going to stop it,
Yeah.
don't encourage it.
Yeah. No. And it went from a maybe a 5-minute conversation to maybe about a 35-minute conversation, because then it went to what are your goals, and I remember telling him to, like, from that day forward, to make sure that nobody outworked him any longer, like ever
Hmm.
again in practice, in the game, anything. And I remember us talking one day, and you was like, Coach, I I think that he remembers that, because, like, since that day, he's you know, kind of taken serious, and as a freshman, like, understanding, like, to being able to foresee now, senior year, but he was able to, something clicked, and he was able to see it early, which most kids don't see it until senior year or junior year. Like, man, I got to get serious. I got to do all of these things. But I want to go back for a minute, because it's part of the story, and then I want to get to why we're here. Exposure runs, but you are from Philadelphia, right?
Yes, sir.
Talk about how being born and raised in Philly, and I'm not gonna let it go pass right over anybody's head. You said that your brother and sister-in-law, Kendrick and the family soul, right? Like
Right.
blood brother, sister-in-law. But how
Hmm.
did born and raised in Philadelphia, man? Like, how did it mold you into the person that we see today? Like, you could be brash, but you're truthful, you're a straight shooter, and you're honest. Like, how did Philadelphia mold those things in you, man?
I mean that's what Philadelphia is, right? You hear the national media always talk about the fans, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm,
a lot of you could even trace it back to some of the former professional athletes that talk about the fans. If it's one thing Philadelphians will always be, whether you like it or not, is we're very honest, we're very direct,
mhm,
and we're very genuine. Like the one thing I learned since I've been in Illinois, and any Illinoisan that's watching this, please don't take this the wrong way. Any Chicago and Illinois, is that sometimes you guys are pacified, meaning you're usually told what you want to hear. You're never told what you need to hear. And that goes for your children. That goes for y'all as co-workers. It probably goes for why a lot of the violence happens here. But let me be clear: Philadelphia is no different when it comes to the violence. All right, so I don't want y'all to think that I'm putting Philadelphia on this pedestal. But what I've learned by since I've been working here is that usually people are just told what they want to hear, and Philadelphians will tell you what you need to hear. I don't want people around me who's just going to and I have had my moments of like my Philadelphian brothers and sisters, my wife or whoever, and even Xavier. Xavier is given that platform in this household that speak your mind, like speak up for yourself. And so I'm not going to pretend like I'm gonna sit here and say like when people tell me like what I need to hear, like I'm just rosy creamy all the time of it being accepting of that. Like it stings a little bit, right? When me and my wife got to sit and have these serious conversations, she like Moo, like I don't like that, or you effing up, or I need more of this. It stings. It's a gut check, but we were raised to like, all right, you kind of shake that off and you apply it. We had this saying at the job I used to work at: if it don't apply, let it fly. Right. So
mhm,
if it applies to you, take it. If it doesn't,
mhm.
don't take
Right,
the meat, leave the potatoes
right,
of what's
right.
being said. So as far as Philadelphia goes, it just kind of groomed me into um, understanding my responsibility to be direct, truthful, but not disrespectful. There's a
Mm,
very thin line of doing that, right? And I walk it very professionally, and very gracefully, rather. That somebody may take it that I'm being disrespectful, but I'm not. And I'm usually a good judge of like body language when I'm talking, and somebody's like, "Damn,
mhm,
like what the f?" Or man, who does
mhm.
dude think he is? I can usually pick that right up. I'm like, well, how you're taking it right now, I can see your wheel spinning. It's
Yeah,
not. You shouldn't take it that way. Let me break it down a little bit so you
yeah.
can understand better. And honestly, I see some of the gentlemen that's on here. Shout out to Justin, and shout out to Coach. Is that I've had conversations with these guys, and I've had a opportunity to just be blunt and direct,
Mm,
and they've been receptive of it. And they've done the same with me, and not just with Xavier. Just we just have had great conversations, and I've
right.
been blessed to build relationships with men here that are very respectful and understanding of who I am, and they accept me for who I am. And that's
Mhm.
really all you can ask of somebody. So that's really what Philadelphia has done for me. Honestly.
Y- Yeah, no, that's extra dope, man. And you said a lot. Um, you've been dropping a lot of gems. You talked about leadership, influence. The importance of understanding um, what leadership has to be and what type of influence one can have with the leadership. I heard you say responsibility. And I also heard you talk about decision making. As young athletes, right? Young adults, but particularly young athletes, they have to become better decision makers. Because if it's on the court, if it's off the court, they have to be okay enough in themselves to make that decision. Like you telling your son, if you ain't gonna stop it, damn sure don't get in it. You know,
Don't
you
get
got
in it.
to make a decision and be okay with it.
And be okay with it. Like, I'm okay with him not wanting to stop it. And when I say I'm okay with it because maybe he's just not, again, and this ain't no knock to him, he's just not mature enough yet. Or he just doesn't understand how important his voice is. Right? Sometimes we're not ready to be that leader. There's leadership in all of us. We just sometimes ain't ready to be a leader. Okay, cool. That's my job.
And move. Let's be honest. It may not be the right situation. Sometimes you may know it may be the right thing to do, but it may not be in the best interest of you at that time to try to do those things. You know, but you said something, and it'll probably strike a nerve in some people. But you know, again, you're very direct. You know, we call it, you know, you're a pilot, like you have no problem with making a decision. You have no problem with conflict, but you are going to just naturally, inherently, and I showed you scientifically, right? You're the person that's going to get things done.
Right.
But you said that it seems like here in Illinois that people are told what they want to hear and not what they need to hear. How do you think that affects today's high school athlete?
Oh gosh.
Okay, go ahead. Talk. So as a parent, right? Like, talk about the things that you've seen or the things that you may have experienced even with your own kid, but to how there are so many people that attempt to get so close to you that they're going to do just that and tell you what you want to hear instead of what you need to hear. So can you talk about that?
Yeah. So Eli, so just using a high school athlete, I think. Well, let me make a joke and say that I think a lot of parents are living vicariously through their children.
Mm.
So let me put it to you like this. I wasn't. I honestly, I really don't know where Xavier gets his basketball skills from, because it damn sure ain't me. And I'm talking about his athleticism, his jumping ability. That was that was he didn't get that from me. He got that clearly from my wife's side of the family. Her father, may he rest in peace, who passed away before she was even born. The rumor in Philly is he was the man.
Okay.
He was the man, and so Xavier clearly got that DNA from that side of the family, because it wasn't me.
Okay.
I dominated in football. Football was my. Now I could play basketball, right? So what I want Xavier to have skill set from me, he's still learning. I was very smart, a very smart basketball player. I knew my role. I understood and relished my role. I did the dirty work. I rebounded. I set screens. I picked fights. That was my role. Like, I was okay with that.
You was silly. I mean that.
I knew how to box out. I knew how to, pull on the shorts. I knew how to pull you towards me. I knew how to get you to foul me. I knew all the tricks of the trade. I set good picks. You know what I mean? I was a good teammate. Like I said, football was my sport. So things that I knew, the DNA from basketball that I have or had, that's what I'm trying to teach Xavier, because he got the other stuff. Yeah. He got the stuff that I never had. Yeah. I joke with him all the time. I tell Xavier all the time, if I was as good as Xavier was skill-wise, him and his mother would have never known me, ever.
Yeah, because Yeah, because
I'd
life
have been in
takes
the
a
league.
different turn. Yeah.
I'd have been in the league. They'd have never
Hey,
known me. I probably would have
hey,
had a white wife.
hey, hey, things happen for a reason. Things happen
things
for a
happen.
reason.
Things happen for a reason. So, back to the question though. Um, we see it all the time where kids are just kind of told what they want to hear and not what they need to hear. I refuse to tell Xavier what he wants to hear.
Yeah,
I just I just can't do it. I'm doing him a disservice as a father because first and foremost, I'm a father before I'm anything. I'm
exactly.
setting him up for failure if I just tell him what he wants to hear.
Yeah,
And so like I just can't do it. And even if you take Xavier out the equation, all of these young men that have had the pleasure of knowing me, Coach Moo, Mr. Moo, whatever the case may be, I treat them all like they my sons. I'm never going to tell you what you want to hear. So if you coming to me basketball wise or otherwise thinking I'm gonna tell you what you want to hear,
you got the wrong one.
you shit out of luck.
Yeah,
I'm not going to do it. And you
and,
can tell your parent that I said that.
and plus, like what a lot of people don't may not know about you is, but like you're an educator by like trade. So
Hmm.
if like if you're not going not lie to somebody else's kids, you dang sure not going not lie to your own. You know what I'm saying? Like I mean
I
it.
just can't do it. I can't
Yeah,
do it. It's a recipe for disaster
yeah,
because I feel like basketball is by far the most translatable sport to real life.
yeah.
Now you could take
All transferable.
you could take baseball, you could take football, you could take
Hmm.
soccer, you could take any other sport and take some of the things and translate it to life. But I feel
Yeah,
like basketball is by far the most relatable. You got teamwork, you got individuality, you got hustle, you got grinding. You know what I'm saying? I can go on and on and on. That sport is the most translatable to the real world, right? In the
absolutely.
real world, when you're working at a job, you got to work as a team. There's times where you need to work as an individual. There's times where you got to grind. There's times where you need to hustle. There's times where you don't feel like doing it. Basketball.
Got to
That's
have
effing
patience.
basketball.
You got to
You got
have
to talk.
poise.
You got to communicate.
You
Right.
got to do all of that. You got to and thus when I started mentioning and explaining to people about this book here, and they be like, "What the title?" But the way I learned the game of basketball was learning life. Like everything that my dad and my coaches taught, it was like, okay, this is going on in life. Let's make it a basketball game. What would you do? How would you deal with that situation if it was on the basketball court? And
Right.
I just started processing everything. And so, as I said, with this show, right, life and basketball are really synonymous. Like it go hand
Right.
in hand, you know,
It very much goes hand in hand.
to your point. Um, and so we were getting ready for the Illinois State tournament. It had just kicked off, and they were at the 2A. So here in Chicago, it's class 1A, 2A. They play one weekend, and then 3A, 4A. And so 1A had already played, 2A was about to play because my man Lou Adams, that was at Ord, as at Rich Township now,
Right. Right. Coach Adams.
they were in the locker room getting dressed, about to go out for the semifinal game to defend their state title en route to their fourth in 4 years.
Mm.
And Lou got to knock on the locker room door and said, "Y'all get dressed. They just called the state tournament off. There's been a shut in, a stay home order by your governor in Illinois. A lot of people don't know that Lou had an opportunity to be like Coach Smith, Rob, and win 4 in 4 years.
Mm.
But Lou was 2 hours away from going back to his 4th championship.
Mm.
So it was a stay home order, COVID. Everything shut down. Everybody's at home. Nothing's really happening. I did my best to do my part. I brought life in basketball every day.
Mm-hmm.
And at the height of that, you had a passion so hard for your son that you created something. And that's why we're here this evening. Now that we've heard a little bit of the story of Mustafa, but you chose in the at the height, not even at the middle, but at the height of this thing that we really knew nothing about, you didn't want for your son or other people to really be out of a game again that has changed and saved a lot of people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of kids was going through depression.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That thing, because a lot of kids, unfortunately, they just identified themselves with basketball. Like how you said, like you had to fire yourself. But most athletes, when they stop playing, they don't know what to do because they've consumed themselves just with that. But it was a lot of like mind tricks going on. But you found a gym and you said, I'm about to have this open run. And from there, Xposure Runs was birthed. Maybe not the final name, but it was birthed. So talk to us about that, man. You having that passion, you know, COVID, everybody's nervous, but you like.
I was nervous too.
Right.
I definitely was nervous too. So I got to give some credit to David Fuller. You know, who's been doing a lot of he's done a lot of training with the kids. So what happened was right prior to COVID, like a little bit before COVID, I had started becoming privy, or I shouldn't say privy because it wasn't like it wasn't accessible, but I started getting wind of the state, the rankings and all this other stuff, right? There's been a stepping stone of just learning the culture of Chicago, including basketball. So Chicago, I try to tell my friends and family from Philadelphia, right? Chicago is a cultural city. Race, creed, basketball, work, education. It's a culture. Like it's like you have to incumbent yourself into that culture, right? And if you're not going to be successful. If you're not willing to learn and adapt to the culture, you're not going to be successful here in Chicago. That's the best advice I can give anybody. And I don't mean like you need to go down, and join the BDs and the GDs and stuff. Like you ain't need to get there, but you need to know, you need to understand, you need to respect its culture. That's a part of the culture.
The culture of Chicago, yeah.
And Chicago, and basketball being a huge part. I tell people all the time, Philadelphia basketball scene is decent. It's decent. And I'm speaking ignorantly of not even knowing enough about it because I wasn't there to groom my son in it. I grew my son here.
Yeah.
Right? So, anyway, I started learning about AAU and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then when the rankings and all that, and I saw some of these rankings where a lot of his peers was on these ranking sheets, 3 to 4, maybe 5 different ones. And knowing that Xavier has, played with or against a lot of them, his name was never on there. Like never. And I'm like, man, that's kind of odd. Like I've seen him play against that kid. Now, this is not me. I never will talk about a kid, never. But I'm like, well, Xavier is as good as him, or biasly, he might be a little bit. He might do a little bit better things, but he should at least be on here. And the first time, I'm gonna be completely honest. Now, this is my guy now. But the very first time I peeped this was on Ricky Moore's rankings of the 7th and 8th graders. I'm like, well, that's weird. He's playing on one of the top teams with Bryce and Diggy and all of them. Why is Xavier never mentioned ever?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm noticing that Ricky Moore is like ranking them, and I'm like, is this a bias thing? Is it because we're not from here? Like,
right.
And so, long story short, that was when I first got the my wheel started spinning, but I didn't get to that point yet. So fast forward, I got with Dave, and I wanted to do this run, and my mindset behind it was strictly, instead of bitching and complaining about what Xavier wasn't receiving,
Mm-hmm.
I have enough moxie, I have enough I don't give a Fness, that I can create a platform to not just, put my son at the top of the whatever. He gonna have to earn it. Like, that's the other thing about Philadelphia. We gotta earn it. Not only we are gonna earn it, I'm gonna make sure that it's you giving it to me. Like, you telling me I gotta come earn that you got?
Yeah.
No problem.
Cool.
No problem. Cool. But when I earn it, and this is a very high conversation. When I've taken Xavier recently on a lot of these college tours, I tell these coaches, I'm very upfront and blunt with them. I don't care about him coming in and starting. Yeah, it would be great. I don't care about him coming in and getting playing time. Yeah, that would be fantastic. Don't promise me nothing that you can't hold to the fire, because I'm gonna hold you to the fire. But you're going to guarantee me this. If he comes in here, I don't care what level that your guys is on, senior on down. If he comes in here and he earns an opportunity, you better give it to him, or I'm gonna have a problem. That's the type of father I am. We can start at the bottom, not a problem, and we gonna own the bottom, and then we gonna take over the middle, and then we coming for the top. That's how I'm raising them. Don't expect anything except for when you earn it. When you earn it, you expect it.
Just give me a fair chance. Just give me a fair chance.
Just give me a fair chance. And I'm going to know when it's not fair. And I'm teaching him how to know. I'm teaching him how to know. So anyway, I just, instead of bitching and complaining like, oh, he ain't ranked, or oh, he ain't this, and oh, he ain't that, I said, well, I can create a platform and provide that. Mm-hmm. At least I'll give them a chance. They saying that, and I'm saying this very, 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 very respectfully. They saying that young Jeremy is one of the top. They saying that Bryce is this. They saying that, Caden is that. Cool. These guys are great players. Great players. Obviously, they've matured and grown into top players in this state. But biasly, I feel like my son should be in a conversation with them. So let's create this platform. Let's invite all these guys, and let's see where at. If he's trash, it'll be seen. Yeah. You can't hide trash.
Yeah.
And in the culture here, they don't let you hide trash. They call it out.
So smell it. Yeah, they're gonna talk about it.
They're gonna talk about it. My first show we came up. I had this idea with, and then he started training. Dave started training Bryce. He started training Zay. He was doing some workouts with Dante Maddox, who's been a great mentor for Xavier. Coach Maddox has raised a wonderful kid. That kid is awesome. He's awesome, and he's been a great mentor to Xavier. And so I was like, let's do this run. Right? No gym would do it. I'm like, well, hold on. My wife worked at a school. I used to work for them. Let me get that gym. And this is an old Guggenheim building on 71st and Morgan. It got a concrete floor. Our very first run. I have the picture and the video to prove it. We had JJ there. We had Modest there. We had Shikachi there. We had Bryce there. Of course, we had Xavier. We had Kate in there. We had Day Day there. We had pretty much the Mount Rushmore of their class in basketball. They used to say that the rumor is that I believe Kendall Gill's class was the best class in Illinois, like in Illinois history, supposedly.
Yeah,
the argument can be made that this 23 class could give them a run for that money. Now, I'm not from here, so I'm speaking ignorantly, but I've seen these kids from 6th and 7th grade, right? So we just said, let's do it. Let's just put this run on. And that was the birth of exposure runs. And it was a huge success. Smack dead in the middle of the pandemic. The parents that came, I'll never forget, Modest mom brought him and she was like, "How much does this cost?" And I'm like, "Nothing." And she was like, "Nothing?" I was like, "No, ma'am. Like, I'm not charging y'all to come play basketball." And she was like, "Something like this has to cost." I'm like, "Well, I'd rather not. I'm a parent and I feel like I can provide a high level opportunity at no cost." And that has been my motto when I'm doing this stuff. What I'm going to do on Sunday is running me a nice, pretty penny. And I'm not charging nobody. Nobody. I've instructed the videographers and photographers that when the kids come to you for mixtapes, and they will, you are not to overprice them. We're going to have a price point. You're going to respect the parent. You're going to respect the financial that you don't know output that these parents have, and you're going to provide a high level service. If you not, you will never come to anything else I ever do, ever. And I now know my worth. So it's going to be what it's going to be.
So it started out concrete floor, 71st. You did after that first one, then you had another one. And then I remember seeing, I'm like, oh damn. I'm like, man, Mooden went out somewhere. He didn't kind of expanded a little bit. I'm like, okay, I looks good.
Very nice gym. Very nice gym.
Very nice gym. Looks good. Everything that glitters ain't gold. But and a lot of times when you're building something, so I always say that the pioneers generally wind up with the arrows in their back, right? The ones that go before, that start things. They're the ones that get the arrows in their back, and then they're hoping for the pioneers to fall so everybody can come from behind the pioneer
and bum rush.
And and pick up. And so you had one of those moments, and the good and the bad, right? Sunday will be amazing, and we'll talk about that event in a second. But before you got here and starting at the concrete floor and where you're at now, but there had to be a point of adversity that you had to go through to build up that moxie a little more, to build up that strength a little more, that patience, and to just understand a little bit the bad side, one of the bad sides of Chicago,
the culture,
Chicagoland basketball.
So
what happened, Moo? Because I don't even know if a lot of people know, what happened. You was at this nice, beautiful gym, and then what happened?
So after the success of those two runs, and I think we did three. Actually, I think we did do three. So we did two at the concrete, and then Dave got us a spot up there where
he was at the gym that I used to ref at the Score, I think, wasn't it?
I think it's called. Yeah, that's where Harrison that runs.
Yep.
I forget the name of his organization. Please forgive me for not remembering his organization, but he played at Indiana. But anyway,
Yep.
So then we did one up there. So we did three total. After that, so my thing was, it was a twofold thing. Number one, it was like, damn, that gym was far as hell to get to. And then secondly, at the time, I'm like, my son is, I mean, let's call a spade, right? My son is becoming the star basketball player over at Marist. Why the hell can I use their damn gym? Right? And so he was a sophomore at the time.
Yeah.
And I had a very good relationship at the time with the sophomore coach, Pat Hogan. The relationship with Trindle was real icy. He was a awkward individual, and I'm saying that nicely.
Yeah.
But anyway, I reached out to Hogan, and I pitched like, hey, can I get in there? Like, I got this idea, and he was like, yeah, I saw it, and this, that, the, and the third, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, cool, let me get in there. And so he tells me, well, I don't know, but I just started working for doing training or coaching with this guy in Western Springs, Christopher Sparks. And I'm like, okay. He's like, well, let me talk to him and see if we can get you up there and da 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 da. I'm like, all right, cool. And so within that hour or two, he got me on the phone with the guy, and I told him whatever Hogan didn't tell him, I filled in the blanks. Mm-hmm. And he was like, man, that sounds like a great idea. This, that, and the third. Why don't you come up to the gym? We'll talk. At the time, he was training Roosevelt, a player named Roosevelt that went to North Texas or something like that, and we went up there. He put Zay through a workout. Roosevelt worked out with Xavier. They built a nice little bond. I'm still really good, friends with Roosevelt. And so we got to talking. I told him what I wanted to do. We get all the videographers up there, blah, 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 blah. He's like, yeah, let's do it. And so red flag number one was at the time, so after we met, we were now kind of texting and talking over the phone. He told me like he had already had an established situation up there. Okay. with his platform, with his name. He was already pretty well established in that area up there with his people, right? You could read between the lines of that. He was already established there. He had a little contingent of he was working out people, but he was pretty well established among his people. And so he said to me like, well, I don't want to put my brand with what y'all doing. And then the other thing, red flag number two, was he didn't really want Dave to be a part of it because Dave was working with, what is the name of their organization? I don't know why it's.
I can't think of it either, but I know they wear red and black.
Right. Lockdown. So he didn't want to work with Dave because of that. Now, a little bit of my feelingness came out like, well, you don't want to work with Dave. You don't want to work with me. Dave he a part of this.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, he works for basically the competition. I'm like, well, I hear you, but shit, I'm sure Pepsi and Coca-Cola did some business together behind closed doors somewhere, like, or Mountain Dew and Sprite. Like, I don't know what I'm saying. Like, what are we talking about here? And so I'm like, well, if you don't want to work with Dave, you don't work with me. Like, so we're a package deal. So I was ready to walk away. And so he's like, well, all right, let's do it. Let's we can have him work, but let's have him work behind the scenes. And da-da-da. I'm like, okay, but let me run it by him. And I'll let Dave know, like, if you ain't with it in terms of what he was pitching, then I'm out. F it. We a package deal, bro. Like, this is what we doing. And he was like, no, like, I don't want to. Go ahead. You be the forefront. I'll be behind the scenes to help you get the get the talent. I'm like, are you sure? So when we did the very first one, I made sure that all of the videographers and photographers got as much footage of me and Dave side by side as possible. People needed to know that he was a huge part of what I was doing or what I was trying to do. And so we did it. We put on the first one. We put on quite a few actually throughout that entire summer. But each time we did it, it was more and more things that I was noticing that was like what is he doing? It was more and more like, pushing me to the side and more like wanting to not include me in conversations with people, and more like, trying to change the format. And it was just like, well, Chris, like, we had some words, and it was like, first it went from you ain't want to include your brand, and then when we got there for the very first one, the damn jerseys had your effing logo on it.
Yeah.
Right, and it was in the midst of like we were about to do it, so I couldn't like, oh no, we ain't doing this. Because I had to see the bigger picture, and I didn't want to make it about me. Like, because I already had a logo by that time. I was like, well, we could have just put my logo on there or put both. We could have shared the spotlight, but I didn't want to make a big whatever about it. But when the conversation came, I brought that up. Like, you initially said you ain't want to put your shit on there, but now you got your damn logo. Like what the F is we talking about here? So we smoothed that over and went on to have the rest of the joints. But by the last one, the next to the last one, he introduced me to some dude from a recruiting service called Dark Horse. And when he introduced me to him, he introduced me as, I forgot exactly how he worded it, but it wasn't like this was my shit.
You was the help now.
I was the help.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was the help. And when he introduced me to him, the dude from Dark Horse, as you know, like, this is Mustafa, the help. The dude from Dark Horse saw me look at Chris like, the help? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. All right. Cool. The last one, I knew that I was cutting ties with him.
Yeah.
I had some friends come out from Philly. I'll never forget that. I had some friends come out from Philly. I was over there helping them get settled into their Airbnb. Me and Celeste was over there. And then I had gotten a phone call from one of the fathers of one of the runs that said, as a matter of fact, it was the father of, and they were from I had kids come from way down south Illinois. Owen Freeman came up. Like, now, all due respect to Owen and what he has been able to become one of the top players in this class. At the time, Owen was down. He was well known down in his area where he's from. Well known. Not a lot of people up in this area knew of him or knew how good he was. He came to a run, and I won't name the kid, who he absolutely dominated. I'd never seen. Owen had, like, his footwork was something that, as a novice, let alone people who are better than me at judging, his footwork was like, I'm like, oh shit.
Right.
He was killing this kid. And this kid had came fresh off getting an offer. He was killing the kid. Right. I mean, killing him. And so anyway, I got a phone call. Justin King's father. This kid now was in college. Justin King's father called me and said, hey man, I think he's trying to pull the rug from underneath you. And I go, well, what do you mean, Mr. King? And he's like, well, he's trying to sell y'all what y'all doing to Dark Horse, and he's now he created a whole nother entity, something called the Next Wave, and then was selling packages of recruitment services through Dark Horse to these kids. I called every kid I knew who was with me from the beginning and told them, you could do it if you want to, but I wouldn't. He got wind that I had started calling the kids and called and tried to, like, cuss me out. And I told Chris, I said, the last thing you want, bro, is for me to come to Western Springs for you to have that same energy to my face. Because I know you won't.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much the end of that. There was some other things that happened in there, but for the sake of time, it was just like, I realized that, first and foremost, I realized I was sitting on a gold mine that I'm not even willing or wanting to cash, because it's not about making no money. I don't really care about making the money. There is money to be made, but I'm more invested in getting these kids an opportunity to be seen. As we talked before we came on here, what COVID has done and what the transfer portal has done, it has now pushed down every level. So D1 kids is going D2, D2 kids is going D3, D3 kids is going NAIA, and NAIA is going JUCO, and JUCO kids ain't even getting a chance to go to after school. Some of them are back home. And like you said, basketball saving lives.
And yeah, and I'm not sure if you ever saw the post or the video class that I did on that point, right? So when I attend the Final Four, the coaching convention, the Division One head coaches meeting is at 8 a.m. on Friday morning. Everything kicks off Thursday evening. The head coaches, Division One head coaches meeting is at 8 a.m. I started going to the Division One coaches meeting because I wanted to. Well, one, I'm like, I need to be in the room of where I want to be, but also I understood because at that time I was a junior college head coach. Our meeting wasn't until 2:30 in the afternoon. So the Division One head coaches meeting would be at 8 a.m. The Division Two head coaches meeting would be at like 9 o'clock. The Division One head assistant coaches meeting would be at like 11 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got the NAIA meeting. And then you got the JUCO meeting. I don't even know when the Division Two assistant coaches meeting was. But by the time I got to the JUCO meeting, I had knew everything, all the new rule changes, because it started from the top. And the things that the Division One head coaches or didn't want, what they wanted or didn't want, once those were put in place, and that's why they staggered the times like that, because now it's just flowing downhill. So even so, as that former head college coach, I've seen athletes with the Division One offer, and that offer is contingent on summer school, because you got to pass a class in summer school so that you can graduate high school and now I can sign you, or you're in junior college and you got to pass that class or classes to graduate junior college, because if you're not a qualifier, you got to graduate junior college to go Division One. If you're a qualifier, you only got to go 1 year. So those athletes that thought they was going Division One move come the end of summer school, and now they didn't get the grade, so now they don't graduate. They're not even eligible for Division One anymore. So now guess what? Now that Division Two coach gonna come along.
Yeah, he getting a Division One talent for Division Two,
and I'm gonna sign you. Well, now guess what just happened? Now that dude that was a late, or that young lady that was a late signee for Division Two. Oh, well, I'm sorry, Mustafa. This scholarship not available no more because we just lucked up on this stud, right? So now that Division Two player winds up, now if they don't go laterally to another Division Two school, they're probably gonna go down one, as you said. Now they're gonna go probably NAI. They probably won't go D3. They probably gonna go NAI. And then it trickles so forth as now those people that's going NAI may go Division Three, may go JUCO. And so it is a cycle that you have to know how to navigate through. But like you said, and as a parent, at least you know this. There are a lot of parents that have no idea of what you're just talking about, that even exists.
Well, because remember we said that basketball is very translatable to life. So you take that same scenario and now put it in the example of a job.
Yep.
Right? You want that executive job.
Yep.
You better go ahead and accept that offer.
Yep.
You don't. Now you got to get that mid-level exception job.
Yep.
You don't accept that. Now you got to get that early entry job.
Yep.
The entry level job. You don't accept that. Now you might be working custodial, or you know what I'm saying? Like it's the translation to life.
Yep.
And I took that knowledge with knowing very little about the process, right? I just know, I'll tell you what I told Coach Hans. I have no intentions to ever pay for school for Xavier. Ever. None. So I understood I knew Xavier was good enough. I knew he was smart enough. So let me reverse those. I knew he was smart enough, and I knew he was good enough, and I knew he deserved an opportunity to go to school for free. Now, my wife and I have made great steps into making sure whether he gets a scholarship or not, he ain't gonna pay for school. Yeah. Basketball will not be the story of Xavier Ibn Mustafa Suleiman. It'll just be an added bonus to his story. It won't be his story.
Exactly.
He gonna go to school. He gonna go to school with or without basketball. Right?
Basketball is what he do. It's not who he is.
It's not who he is. He gonna get to school. He gonna have some fun, and even that part of the algorithm of life is like, bro, you gonna go to college. Mm-hmm. You gonna have a good ass time, right? Whoever coined the phrase that college is the best years of your life, they knew exactly what the hell they was talking about. I had a ball in college. I had a ball. And I went to the first black HBCU, Lincoln University of Pennsylvania. And we ain't had no football team at the time I was there. And I wasn't good enough to make the basketball team.
Right. But and you still had a ball.
And I didn't even go right after high school. That's the other part. I started college in the spring semester, and I had too much of a ball. But I had a ball nonetheless. So I'm preparing Xavier. I'm giving him every ounce that I have in life. I had a conversation with him 3 weeks ago, and I told Xavier straight up. I think it might have been right before he turned 18. I told him straight up, I need you to be as prepared for the day that I die as humanly possible. After I die and the grieving and all of that, I need you ready to get right back on that horse and start being the leader of this family and being the continue being the role model for your brother, and you need to be helping your mom out. Like I get it. Like I understand. I'm in that space now. Like I'm not gonna be here forever, and I need you to be prepared. You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. You need to be prepared for life after me, man. And life after me could possibly include no basketball.
Right. No, man. You. One, I can see and I can hear the passion, but I can also see and hear the love in your voice and just in your monotone of how much you've enjoyed this process, right? Because it is a process, and I say all the time, Joel Embiid made it sound sexy.
But it definitely is a process.
It's and the process can get difficult. So after finding out that you was trying to somebody was trying to undercut you, now you made a pivot. Talk about that pivot and how we got to where we are today leading into Sunday.
The pivot was just first being still. Just really just kind of just stopping and realizing like what exactly do I want to do with this thing?
Okay.
Like I had a couple people like approach me and wanted to like do this or let's do it this way or you should do it this way or try to add this element or like whatever. But I just needed to be still for a second. But what was never compromised or what was never not like their supportive wise, like Zay and Celeste, they always were very like very supportive, and my wife has her own organization now, and so I just for a minute I just kind of like just sat still and just tried to really figure out what exactly did I want to do with this. And when I started to get an idea, it was then telling myself like, and I'm still a work in progress in this aspect as far as I can't be afraid to want to do something and fail. That's how I know like, okay, that won't work. So like sometimes I would sit and not do anything with it because I didn't want to fail, but I had people that supported what I was doing, and they saw the value in it for not just the high level kids, but also for the kids that wasn't so much high level. There was such value in getting them these opportunities, and then nobody else, anybody else that was doing it, they were doing it with an ulterior motive. It seemed right, or they were doing it for a monetary gain. I'm doing it because like I know that there's a need for these type of opportunities just based off of the trickle down effect that COVID and the portal has caused. And then I found that the kids really bought into it. They really appreciated it. They really started to feel like not like like they needed it. Like somebody is really out here trying to help us.
Trying to help us. Well,
that wants nothing from me. Like I don't need nothing from these kids. I tell them all the time. I used to tell my students this when I worked as a high school dean, and I would have to discipline kids or call their parents to bring them in for different types of disciplinary. I would tell them, I do this, number one, because I used to be a student like that. I was a very rambunctious student. But I also do this, if I had to say that I want anything from them, this is what I want from them. When I'm old and I'm sitting somewhere in an office, or I'm sitting somewhere that they can help me or provide me with a service that I need to better my life as I'm coming to the tail end of it, I want them to put a little bit of extra on my shit. So if I'm on the phone hassling with somebody over some benefits, but then I go into the office and I see Bryce Tillery works in this office, and he like, Coach Moo, like, what you doing here? Like, man, I had to come down here and they got me this. Like, what, they made you come down here for this? Man, let me go ahead and cut this red tape and push this through. And I'm going to put a little bit of extra on you. I'll put a little extra on your shit for you, Coach Moo. I remember what you did for me 20 years ago. Yep. That's why I do it. I do it for that.
Yeah.
And then, I can help my son as well. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
And to your point, and obviously I can't speak for you because you just said that eloquently. And as a business owner, right? Is nothing wrong with charging for your services, right? What you're saying is there's a difference in people doing things with good intentions and people doing things with ulterior motives.
So there's nothing wrong with charging for what I do. Right. I just decided not to. I could. Right. You and I both know that I could.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I could.
It was a bigger purpose, though. It was a bigger purpose.
Right. Right. But here's the thing. The money wasn't there. Here's the thing. Right. And I'm not. It's not my job. It's not my responsibility. It's not my business. What people business, what their business sense is. What they got. What they want to do. What they want to do with their money or whatever.
Yeah.
The money that people have given me, whether it's donated or given or however you want to, whatever it, all of it is going back into the program.
Yeah.
When I first started, I raised the money through the GoFundMe. Right, I think I raised almost $10,000. I think.
Oh.
The first thing I did was rented out the Pullman Center for a month. That's the first thing I did. I took all as the money is coming in. I rented out the Pullman Center for a month. Before I even rented out the Pullman Center for a month, I rented out the place up in Orland, which I forget the name, which is kind of like behind Orland, that big gym up there. I rented that out for 2 weeks. Gatorades, the jerseys I got made from with the help of I forget his dad's name. I can't even Marvin's father that went to Sandberg. He helped me get the jerseys. I bought food when I rented out the Pullman Center. I also I put as much money as I could in the concession stand. So all the kids had to do was go up there and get something to eat. I then took in um, I the other money that I had got. Then I started and I had to kind of get away from this because I didn't know if I was violating any rules or anything. Like, I was buying gift cards to present to them and do different things. Then I also used some of the money to help some of the students that I knew were in college. I would send them care baskets to college, kids from Chicago who were first generation college students.
Kids, yeah, yeah.
Right, which one of Celeste's former students has since graduated from college. By the way, we sent her a care package. So like the money is just constantly being recycled into, and then to
reinvested in back
right.
into the kids that is serving.
Yeah, and then when I ran out of money, I started using my own money. Don't tell my wife that part. But
yeah,
one thing she gonna see it. One thing that I have to go back and say that even through all of that, before the donations, before the money was raised and all of that, Derek Ellison and my guy Tyree Booker, who I moved out here with, they were the first two people to invest in what I was doing. Derek, everyone knows who Derek is. He doesn't like being fanfared. He doesn't like being given this notoriety. But honestly, there is no exposure runs without those two. They were very supportive in what I was trying to do. Derek recognized pretty much what you recognize in terms of like just my genuine nature and what I was trying to do, and for Xavier and for other kids. And he was like, look, I see I see your vision. I appreciate it. I think it's a need, is necessary. Here, let me give you a couple $100. And he did. No questions asked. He didn't ask for nothing in return. He didn't expect. And even to this day, behind the scenes, Derek has been very supportive without even me asking. Has been in plenty of conversations or in rooms, either whether he's doing something for Xavier or bring his name up, or just the exposure runs itself. Like, so I had to make sure I said that. And so with this that we're doing on Sunday, this opportunity presented itself. I was approached about doing it, and I was very, very leery because I was approached like, hey, do you know about this gym, this, that, and the third? And I'm like, well, yeah, I know. Who the hell doesn't know about this new gym? And if you're not a big sneaker team or the Chicago Bulls or somebody with money, I couldn't see myself getting in there. And he was like, well, I think I can help you get in there. I'm like, all right, well, the Philadelphian came out of me. He's like, well, what the hell do you want out of this? Yeah. Like, because I'm not charging nobody. No. I don't want you to charge nobody. I see what you're doing. I have a passion for it as well. And I was very late. I went down, I met with the guy, and I liked what he was saying, but he was honest. He was very honest with me and what he wanted in return. And it was something that I felt the honesty and him being upfront, which was basically the networking aspect of it, the what we're doing and the people that's going to be there, what his role is in terms of what he does for a living. It's a networking opportunity. I could respect that. I could appreciate that. That's what life is about networking, right? You get yourself in a room, you get yourself an opportunity to spit your shit, and then you hope that somebody bites. Okay, I'm cool with that. And that's where we at. This thing that we're doing, some of the names.
So yeah, I'm gonna get to that move in a second, but I want to give it its just due, right? So on Sunday, October 30th, at 3:00 p.m.
3:00 p.m.
Xposure runs will be at 167 Green Street at what some people call the Rooftop Gym. Some people may call it a different name, but this Sunday at 3 p.m. at the Rooftop, 167 Green Street, So now I'm gonna let you explain a little bit about it. Some of the names, well, all of the names of the individuals that's part of this event are some of the premier as well as up and coming young talent in the Chicagoland area. So I'm gonna let you take it from them, Mustafa, and break it down. If you want to read the players' names, by all means, I have them here. I was gonna read it after you explained a little bit more about what's gonna go down, but I wanted to give it its just due. And about the Chicago Showcase is what it's called, sponsored by Xposure Runs. Talk to us
Right,
about
and one of the gentlemen, I have a very good banter relationship with a gentleman from the group, RJ. And he put something in the group of when I first posted about it. Said it showcased the new word for just open runs, and it's like, yeah, that you got to dress it up to make it pretty, right? So cool, but we're also providing an experience now. This is where the sitting still and realizing what else I can include in that,
it.
right? So
Mhm.
we're having this October 30th from 3 p.m. to 6. We are providing a basketball experience for these boys. First of all, some of these kids, so some of the names on this list may have never gotten the opportunity to be in this gym unless they have progressed to possibly a professional level. They didn't want to include or allow high school kids in this gym
Mm.
for whatever reason. When we sat down with them and I provided them with not a spreadsheet, but like uh, I had to kind of put together a little portfolio of what I do and what I want to do. They were very blown away. And so we're going to provide this experience. So we're going to, of course, have basketball. We're going to, of course, have the video and photographers and videographers. We've invited a slew of coaches. We created a very nice um, advertisement with player cards. I have
Mm.
soon as we're done with this interview, I have a video that I'm going to post hyping up the event, the player cards, the video, as well as the stream, a live stream, and I don't mean a janky live stream. I mean a really good live stream. All three of those is being provided by a gentleman by the name of what's Fabian's? His name is Fabian Newman. I don't know
There you
why
go right
Newell.
there. Yep, there you go
He's
right there.
oh yeah, there we go.
Yep,
Yes, exactly. Creating opportunities that COVID tried to take away.
yep.
Fabian is his son is a part of the event,
Mm.
and I remember when Fabian reached out to me and asked me if I needed any media assistance. Of course I did, and I made it. At the time, we were kind of like kind of growing. So when I was reaching out to videographers and photographers, of course, it was like under the whatever of like,
Yeah.
well, I'll charge this and I charge that. I'm like, well, this event is going to be something that you're going to want to be at, not so much I need you to be at.
Mhm.
So there's a difference. So anyway, when Fabian first reached out, offering his service, um, he offered his service, which the service that he's providing is very lucrative and valuable because he does an excellent job. He said, I see what you're doing and I love what you're doing and I want to help however I can help. Whatever you need me to do, however you need me to do. And I said, well, Fabian, I can't afford you. I can kind of see and I can hear. I can't afford you. He's like, don't even worry about that. What do you need? And the best part about that was our racial peers, they do that among themselves that
Absolutely, all the time.
all the time. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Our racial and religious peers, they do it all the time. So I felt very honored and blessed that he wanted to provide that. And so we got these high level athletes, some of them who just need an opportunity to be in the gym with these high level athletes. And it ain't like the drop off in talent is like goes from one of the top players, actually the top player in the 23 class, and then the next best player is Ziggy. No, these kids can really play.
It says Ziggy.
It
That ain't going like that.
ain't going like that. You know what I'm saying? We ain't going from Jeremy Fields to Ziggy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these kids is going to be. I feel like they're. This is how excited they were as I'm winding down the last few cards. Three of them who I hadn't even announced yet was like, Coach Moo, like I don't have no card. Like you got a card, bro.
Yeah.
Like you got one. I got you.
Yeah.
Like, but I wanted them to feel. I wanted them to have that feeling, ownership of what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
And that's like part of the foundation, man, to really that next level success, being able to have that ownership and to take that ownership. For those people that don't know, Ziggy is Mustafa's kindergartner.
yes, my kindergartner.
Right about that. But what's the score of the game, man? Because you what's the score of the game? Because I
It's
see.
still five. It's still 5-5.
Okay.
It's on commercial break now. I got it right here. I was just my wife just got home, so I just was kind of like glancing up at her, just kind of
Okay.
taking her in a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. The
The
first
Phillies
lady,
and the Astros in the World Series, baby.
first lady of the house is at the crib. So yeah, so we have 28. Am I correct? We got
28 is correct.
28 young men, and help me if I mispronounce anybody's name.
Okay.
But these gentlemen is Josh Andrews, Prince
Yep.
Adam.
Wait. Let me tell you about Josh Andrews real quick.
Yeah.
Josh Andrews is a kid that actually goes to my wife's school.
Okay.
This kid would have never gotten an opportunity to play on this level or be seen by these people. I had him at an event that I partnered with my wife and her organization about a month or so ago,
Okay.
and he completely dominated this event. Now, to be fair and to be crystal clear, the talent of that previous event wasn't as nearly as good as it's going to be, but the opportunity is for the very same reason. I want to
And
see how this kid is going to translate and play against some really great players of this state.
and let me just preface this for any parent that's watching, because with my company, Bless the Ball Consultant, and I talk to a lot of parents, and a lot of parents, they say, well, I want more exposure for my kid. Exposure. And yes, this is exposure runs.
Mm-hmm.
There's more to exposure than said basketball
Mm-hmm.
game, right?
Mm-hmm.
What you're doing, what you said, is this gym doesn't normally allow high school athletes even in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
So for some of those players,
That's the exposure right there.
they're getting a level of exposure
They would have never gotten.
that they would have never gotten by being
Mm-hmm.
in that facility, right?
Right.
Being around certain players from all over the state.
Another form of exposure.
That's a certain level of exposure.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to explain to parents, exposure is not just you being at this tournament with a lot of college coaches there and they're selling you on you gonna get exposure, but the coaches are on court 5 and 6, and your kid's son or your kid's team is playing in the auxiliary gym. So they ain't even around the coaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what type of exposure can you can you get outside of the only type of exposure that you're thinking of? Like, let's expand our minds. What would going to a college practice, what type of exposure is that? So you're providing tons of exposure for these individuals if they understand the level of exposure you're giving them. So I think that that's amazing in itself, just being able to be in that environment and that type of facility, even speaking to, about, individuals like, Fabian Newman, right? Just being around different individuals that they can be exposed to just different things in life. And I think a lot of people miss that, but I think that you understand it. And that's why you've done it the way that you've done, because this thing is bigger than basketball.
It's much bigger than basketball. And remember, at the top of this uh, interview, we talked about the very first time you met Xavier and I, and the advice that you gave him was, you never know who's watching. This
Yep.
event, you don't know who's going to be watching that link.
Yep.
That link has been shared out now, and it will continue to be shared out up to and then obviously the day of, and furthermore after the fact, and then we'll take that video and we'll post it, and of course then the video from the videographers, blah 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 blah. But that day, you don't know, that link could possibly land on the desktop or laptop of some major college coach who just so happened to be sitting at his desk, bored as hell, and needs something to do. And somebody, he's looking on Twitter, and cause that's how most people found me anyway, or they find anything on Twitter. It's like, well, what's this? Click. And what Fabian has done is he's going to have every angle of that gym. It won't just be the back and forth.
Yeah.
It won't be just that. Like like I was, when we was down there the other day, I wish we were starting that day. Fabian's going to have cameras on every angle of that gym. So you'll see the angle of the game, you'll see the angle of the players, you'll see the angle of the people who's going to be in there, and then you'll get a whole 360 view of the gym itself. So you're going to see the body language, you're going to see the excitement, you're going to see the hate, you're going to see everything that you need to see. So anything that you are looking for in terms of when coaches are evaluating players, you're going to see that.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see that. You're going to see the people who's just there just to be hot dogging it and not playing. People look at these runs and they're like, well, ain't no defense being played. And in some cases, that's probably true. But there are players who are going to be there who take pride in playing defense. Diggy and Hunter, and Jeremiah, and I mean Jeremy himself. Like Xavier. Like you're going to see players who are like defensively, like they gonna get after it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you'll see players who they not. And the one thing about Chicago is when it's trash, they'll tell you. They'll let you know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and it's a fantastic opportunity for a lot of people, not only the athletes, but also the parents of these athletes.
The parents too. I think that if it's one thing I want to say to any parent is that it's an opportunity for y'all as well. Like the opportunity, like you may not have never gotten a chance to be in that gym. You may not have ever gotten a chance to see your child play against a caliber player like some of these players. You think that, and then let's call a spade a spade. You think that your child is as good as you say, and you could find out that they may not be that good.
And to your point, again, as I'm talking to parents and they're talking about exposure, and I try to explain really what exposure is, and I let them know that, like, and it's two sides of that coin, because don't be so in a rush for exposure if your athlete is not necessarily solid foundationally, because you'll go to try to get exposure, but you'll end up being exposed.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying? So make sure that they're solid foundationally first, and then they can start with the progression. But
right.
let me go down these names, move,
Okay.
and so we can give these athletes their just due right here. And I definitely want to get you off the line so that Celeste can have you, Tiffany can have me, and we can both cut that honeydew list down just a little bit.
Thankfully, my honeydew list, particularly on Sundays for the beginning of time. I have a wife that thoroughly enjoys football, so
Mhm.
she either doesn't have a honeydew list for me on Sundays, or it's like she'll take care of most of. Like we're diehard, I mean diehard Eagles fans in this house. So
And
she's
you
very.
giving up your Sunday and gonna miss
I'm
an
oh
Eagles game.
listen. I
And
was
they
going to say
doing good this
the
year
day
too.
of the event, I'm going to let them know because they coming off the bye week. They undefeated. We just stole one of y'all players, right? Right. Like they better know that how much this means to me.
Yep.
I don't do
Yep.
nothing on Sundays, bro.
Hey,
Nothing.
hey,
Nothing. My wife had to fool me one year to get me out of the house for a birthday lunch. And honestly, I don't even know if I should tell this part of the story. Like, I didn't even shower because I don't
hey,
normally go nowhere on Sundays.
hey, man. Hey, look, you got Erica 100% behind you talking about
Oh yeah,
Eagles.
that's my cousin. We'll be on here a whole nother hour if I had to talk about her. She's like a mother to me. That's Ziggy's godmother. So like she's definitely an Eagles fan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep. She so says Ziggy is the godson.
yeah.
But October 30th, 3 p.m. at 167 Green Street. The following athletes will be in attendance.
Who were invited. This is an invite only event.
Invite
People
only.
cannot just show up to this event. You will get your feelings hurt, and you messing with somebody from Philadelphia that will tell you no in a heartbeat. I don't do the ass kissing, so please don't show up if you wasn't invited. And by now, you know that you've been invited. So go ahead.
And so with that said, for those people that want to check out the event, it is being live streamed, and I'm gonna drop the link in.
Okay.
Jealous, I'm in Philly, but I will definitely log in. Absolutely, Erica. All right, so I just dropped the link. This is the live stream link. It will be in the comments of the show. Make sure that you all tap in, all right, because we have a lot of quality athletes at this event.
Quality.
Starting
Well,
again.
from freshman all the way up to senior, there is some very quality players. So I'm gonna let you go ahead and start naming. I know we've been kind of beating around the
Okay.
bush, but
Yep.
go ahead.
So we got Josh Andrews, we got Prince Adams, we got Richard Barron, we got George Bellevue, we got Dalen Davis, Hunter Duncan, Jeremiah Fears, Jeremy Fears, Will Gonzalez, Wes Gudeman, Evan Jackson, DJ Johnson, Austin Kulik, Corey Lee, Elijah Lovemore, RJ McKinney Jr., Claude, help me out, Moo. What's the last name?
I'm still trying to learn it, but I
Okay.
believe it's Mpuma, and
And
he's from Cameroon. 6'8" young man from Cameroon.
okay. Claude and Puma, Caleb Newman, Cal, help me out, Moo. Cal Ogabe,
Oh, oh, oh,
Olagabe,
I had it.
Olagigi,
Ola Bigwe, I think it is.
Olabigwe. Okay, Cal Olabigwe, Damian Porter Jr., BJ Powell, Vincent Rainey, Wes Rubin, Caleb Spencer, Xavier Suleiman. I'm trying, Moo. I'm
I
trying.
got you. I got you.
Bryce Tillery, Josh Thomas, and Keyshawn Vavo.
Vival. We got
Right.
two freshmen with Claude and BJ Powell. We got a couple sophomores. Out of this group of sophomores, I don't want to say I have a favorite, but
Yeah, yeah, don't do that.
no, you know, I don't care. I don't care. I'm really looking forward to seeing Damian Porter.
Yeah,
Um, he's built like a grown man.
yeah,
He's built like a grown man. Of
yeah.
course, junior wise, Xavier's backcourt mate with Corey Lee will be there. I had an opportunity. Corey is another one who I don't want to say he would have never gotten an opportunity like this, but I think he's a little undervalued for the type. He's a pure point guard. Like he's a leader. I've obviously had an opportunity to watch him throughout the entire summer because Zay played with them. So I'm looking forward to see how he plays against some of these top point guards with Jeremy and Bryce and Jeremiah. And then of course, you know, the seniors, of course, you know, you could pick your litter of any
Yeah,
of these seniors.
yeah.
You could pick your litter through any of them. Evan Jackson, of course, Zay. You got Will who can shoot. This kid Austin Clue from Andrews. I'm trying to see where Zay is at. He almost dunked on Zay's ass over the summer. I got the footage of that shit too. So I'm definitely interested to see how he play.
Man. Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be an amazing event. You know, I'm definitely excited at how you will do the format because I have no idea, but I'm excited of how the format will be. Um, I I think that this again is a great opportunity for all involved. I take my hat off to you as a parent. Um, you didn't sit around waiting for things to happen. You did your part while Xavier was doing his part, and everything is beautifully coming together now. So, to the parents, right? My advice beyond this event, get yourselves educated, right? If you have to ask Mustafa some questions, again, the first thing that Mustafa said was he learned from his mistakes and the mistakes of others. There are some things that this gentleman knows that you as the parent probably don't know if you haven't been on the front line and doing some of these things. So ask questions, but get educated a little more because it will save you some stress, will save you some money, and it will help your athlete. Mustafa, you know, I take my hat off to you, you know, and you know, me and you know, a little different because you know, at times, you know, I call you and I say, Moose, that ain't even worth it. Like, you know, you be like,
hmm
thank you. I'll be like, Moo, don't even
Don't
do it.
even don't even engage in it. Yeah, like
Don't even.
you definitely have talked me off a many a ledge where it was kind of like the next comment was going to be, here go my address, pull up.
Yeah, yeah. And so, man, you know, your perseverance, you know, just as a parent, but also as a black man, you know, and you're helping all ethnicities out by that basketball, right? Because it's life. And I definitely take my hat off to you, man. You know, I definitely look forward to the event. The way that we're gonna close, I'm going to close, you know, and I still have the testimonial that you gave me. But you know, you and I had a conversation and you know, I had you take, you know, this survey. You know, I've, you know, been doing some things, and I have this actual assessment, this actual flight assessment That's powered by Dr. Eric Thomas, and all of those things, and we did it, and it made a lot of sense to you. I'm going to me and my company. We're going to 28 of these assessments to every player that will play. Take them 15 minutes, but it'll give them a better understanding of where their strengths are as an individual and as a player. And so that's my contribution from Bless the Ball, the exposure runs, brother to brother. I'm gonna definitely do my best, to be able to, pull away and be in the gym and support you, in the best way possible. But yeah, definitely big ups to you, man. Big ups to you for everything that you're doing. Any closing words?
Really, I just want to really thank you for this platform to be able to come on and just kind of just talk about the event and just kind of just talk about, what it's like being a father. That to a child who just so happens to be a student athlete, right? A lot of this stuff is, we are so caught up in our children, you know, I guess playing in the NBA or just I just want Xavier to be a good human being. He has a solid foundation that is our family that happens to be in Philly, and then we obviously we have some people that we've built relationships with that we consider family here, but Xavier has a really good solid foundation, not just with me and his mother and obviously his brother, but he has Erica, he has Celeste's mother, he has my mother, he has a slew of cousins from every age group that support him and love him. And I have friends who support him and love him. They're the uncles, who are friends. And so he has come January 30th, which will be Xavier's senior day.
Mm.
we are I am very strongly wanting anybody and everybody who loves our family to find a way to get here to tear that gym up with just screaming and supporting Xavier. I've had friends that I've met either through social media or I've known all my life that have pretty much watched Xavier from birth grow up.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is just as much their journey as it is ours.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people get a chance to see their child graduate from high school, right? For whatever reason, like either they had to support the family, they had to drop out, they may be unfortunately, passed away for whatever reason. So, it's a blessing that we get a chance to watch our son graduate from high school, which in my house, in my mother's house, was a very important thing for her. My mother was she wanted us all to go to college, but she was very adamant, like everybody in this house will graduate from high school. And if
Absolutely.
you walk in my mother's house, when you come through the front door, you walk through the living room, as you're entering the dining room, the archway, all the diplomas of all my brothers and sisters, including mine, is up above this archway.
It's a
So
standard.
it's a standard.
It's a standard. Yeah.
It's an absolute standard. And then of course, with Celeste, going to college and graduating from college, and it's education is really, and it's a no coincidence that we both work in education,
In
and
education. Yeah.
it's really weird that I even work in education because I was a piece of work in school with my teachers. Like, I mean, I gave them the business.
Yeah.
And so, but I use those experiences to like help these kids because I remember what it was like when I was in school. That's never lost on me.
And
How I felt in certain moments. So I use those experiences for that stuff. But
that's why you said that the children, like, real recognize real, right? But you're credible because you've been through it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And that goes a long way. and people can tell the genuineness, oh man, this dude done been there. Like he done been through something, and he just trying to get me the game. And I think that's why, if it's, Coach Moo, Uncle Moo, whatever, but that's why they flock to you, man. And, you are a genuine dude, honest, if it's brutally or not. But, sometimes people need that honesty, right? Because as you said earlier, they ain't getting it from everybody. As Erica said, they appreciate a real over fake. I mean, and
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I told you earlier, like
yes,
the one thing that I learned since I've been here is that these kids they respect genuine
yep,
conversation, and they are very good at identifying fake. And it's so
they'll say
crazy
to sniff
because
it out.
they'll let you walk yourself right down that rabbit hole, and they do it so smoothly. Like, keep on talking. You
Yep,
just digging
yep,
yourself a hole,
yep,
and then
yep.
you lost them. You can't
Lost
get them back. You
forever.
can't get them back forever. And so we've all done a good job. Myself, my wife, and Tyree, and Anthony, and Ishmael. We've all done a great job, and Juan, and Gerald. We've all done a great job of just being ourselves. And if being yourself is not enough, then you ain't gonna make it.
But you know
You ain't
what?
gonna make it.
And on that note, um, being yourself is really a superpower, right? Again, a lot of people can't tap into their greatness because they don't. Again, you said you had to find yourself, but being yourself, that's the greatest superpower that any of us ever have. But again, man, Moo, it's been a pleasure. Sunday, October 30th, 3 p.m. Y'all go check the link out. Check out the live stream. It's going to be some good things going on for a lot of young people on that day. To my athletes, be safe out here, especially this weekend, right? Halloween, all that, just be safe. There's some clowns out here.
Hmm.
Stay on top of your grades and work as hard as you can for as long as you can. And as I always say in closing of this show, um, Erica dropping some.
Yeah, my grandma. Yeah, she definitely used to say that.
Yep, yep,
I'm telling you, I have a great support system. I have a great
yep.
family, bro. Like like that
No,
ain't no
I
bullshit.
can see it. Yeah, tell man, and it's and I think I told you when I even found out about your brother, I'm like, man, that's like me and one of me and my wife's, like we got married to one of their songs, but it's just an energy, man. It's just a certain type of energy. But as I always say, on this show closing, keep striving for the top because it is crowded as hell at the bottom.
Mm.
So y'all go check it out October 30th. I'm gonna leave, Moo, if you don't mind. I'm gonna leave with this testimonial from you. But so y'all don't go nowhere and listen specifically to this brother. And this was right after the undercut, right? And I think
Right.
that we had this meeting at the right time. But Moo, I will reach out to you in a minute, but definitely I should see you Sunday. Xposure runs, right? Y'all remember the name now. Because in a few years you're gonna be like, I remember seeing that guy. All right, so until next time, y'all. We out.
All right, coach.
Peace.
Good afternoon. Before I get into this testimonial about the actual assessment that Coach Bailey gave me, I wanted to just to kind of speak directly to anyone listening about Coach Bailey himself rather. Coach Bailey is a person who I've met since I've been living in Chicago. He's been very supportive of my family, especially my son. He's offered tutelage and advice on his progression from middle school all the way up to now being in high school. I've spoken to a couple of Coach Bailey's players who have offered a wide ranging of positive feedback regarding him. So I wanted that to be known regarding Coach Bailey, and I wanted to thank him for that. As far as the assessment goes, I was very surprised, pleasantly surprised at how detailed and accurate the assessment was, from a standpoint of being someone who is always looking to, kind of better himself, to have a better understanding of why I do some of the stuff I do, positively and negatively, and obviously to get better from the negative and grow from the positive. The assessment was spot on, and it helped me understand some of my inner mental blocks, if you will, of why I am the way that I am. He was very detailed. He was very patient. He explained down to the letter of where my assessment placed me at in certain categories, and I feel like it'll be very helpful and very positive for anyone to take this assessment. It does not have to be sports related, basketball related. This assessment can be taken for anyone that's a business owner, a player, a teacher, a husband, a wife, a child. It was very, very accurate, and I learned a hell of a lot about myself. So, Coach Bailey, thank you very much for reaching out to me and just being a mentor, whether you know it or not. I'm just being a mentor to not just me, but to some of these kids, these younger players, and to still be a mentor to some of your players that you used to coach. I grew up in Philadelphia in that community environment, Atlanta and Philadelphia, where it takes a village. Like, I come from that mantra that it takes a village. And sir, I want to thank you for being a part of the village here in Chicago and being a part of my personal village. Continue success, and please continue keeping me on that straight path as a father, and just as a advocate for the community as well as some of these younger players. Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
Yo, just so you understand it, this is Coach Carvel Bailey's program with the spirit of Bob Hambry.
This is Blessed to Ball, helping athletes, and we represent. Study your craft, your mentality leads to excellence. It's all about your mindset. We'll never stop addressing this, so be positive and not a pessimist. Confidence took James Harden higher. If you really want it, it ain't gonna be easy. It's gonna be hard as carbon fiber, but we got you. From counseling to workshops, we do it. You'll go farther with a scholarship. We'll help you get recruited. Yo, anyone can dribble and shoot, but it's the ones who study basketball internally that make it to Duke University. Knowledge goes around. The game is played from the neck up and not from the shoulders down. This is Blessed to Ball, helping you with obstacles. The athletes are the rocket. Blessed to Ball is the rocket fuel. If you hit a wall, we can help you slowly climb it. So keep a Mamba mentality like Kobe Bryant.
Blessed to Ball.
Cherish the opportunities that you have.
Blessed to Ball.
Use your mentality to master the craft.
Blessed to Ball.
Come join our team, it's a new day. Follow our steps and watch how much better you play.
Blessed to Ball.
Cherish the opportunities that you have.
Blessed to Ball.
Use your mentality to master the craft.
Blessed to Ball.
Come join our team, it's a new day. Follow our steps and watch how much better you play. Yo, Coach Carvel Bailey. Hey, listen to your coach, man. He ain't no scrub off the street. That man got credentials, academic and street. Believe it, and my name is strategic.